Por favor, tomen asiento. O sea, encima
Please
parado,
take
no.
a seat. I mean, on top of standing, right?
Buenas tardes
Well,
a todos.
good afternoon, everyone.
Hoy es un
Today
gran
is
día
a
para el
great
futuro
day for the
económico de nuestro
economic
país.
future of our country.
Ayer
Yesterday, we
hemos
achieved
logrado un
historic
apoyo
support
histórico de
from the
los
United
Estados Unidos a
States
la
to the
República
Argentine
Argentina
Republic to
para
provide us with
proveernos de
stability
estabilidad
in
en
this
este
time of
momento de
political
turbulencia política.
turbulence. The course that
El rumbo que la
Argentina
Argentina
has
ha
taken
emprendido
since
desde el
2023
2023
has earned it
le ha valido el
recognition from the
reconocimiento
entire
del mundo
world.
entero.
The courage, effort, and
El coraje,
patience
el
of all
esfuerzo y la paciencia de
Argentines
todos
are an
los
example
argentinos
for
son
Western
un ejemplo para
nations,
las
and the
naciones de
United
Occidente.
States, among them, has chosen
Estados
to
Unidos,
accompany
entre
this
ellas,
feat by
ha elegido
providing us with
acompañar
its
esta hazaña
financial
brindándonos
support at a
apoyo
time when the
financiero
forces
en
of
un
the
momento en el
past
que
are
las
fighting
fuerzas
with
del
all their
pasado
might to
luchan con
ruin
todas
the
sus
future
fuerzas
again.
para arruinar
This
de nuevo al
support is
futuro.
nothing more nor less than historic
Este
for our
respaldo no es ni
nations,
más ni
on a
menos que
scale that,
histórico
for
para nuestras
ordinary
naciones,
people, is
en
very
una escala que
difficult to
pasa
imagine. I am
que para la
confident that
gente de
this
a
will be
pie
a
es muy
founding
difícil
milestone of
imaginar.
this new era that, as a
Confío que
country,
este
we
será
are
un hito
beginning and
fundacional
will
en esta
allow
nueva
us to
era.
advance in
Como
the
país estamos
construction of the
comenzando
Argentina that I
a
am
aspirar a avanzar
convinced
en la
that we all
construcción de la
desire.
Argentina que estoy
This happened
convencido que
just
todos
yesterday.
deseamos.
Today, first thing in the
Esto
morning,
ocurrió
we
tan solo ayer.
celebrate the signing of the largest
Hoy,
investment in
a primera
Argentine
hora de la
history.
mañana,
This is an agreement
celebramos la
between
firma de la inversión
YPF
más
and
grande de la
ENI,
historia
the
argentina.
Italian-owned
Se
hydrocarbon
trata de un
company,
acuerdo
which
entre
will allow the
YPF y la
export of
ENI, la
between
empresa de
12 and $20
hidrocarburos de la
billion
capital
of
italiana,
liquefied
que
natural
permitirá
gas
exportar
per
entre
year.
12
In
y 20
total, it
millones
will
de
involve an
mil millones de
investment of
dólares
$30
de
billion
gas natural
in
licuado al año.
Argentina over the next
En
5
total,
years.
comprenderá una
This
inversión de
makes
30
it
mil
one of the
millones de
most
dólares en
important
Argentina a
energy
lo largo de los
developments in
próximos
all
5
of
años.
Latin America.
Esto lo
But
convierte
not
en
only
uno de los
that,
desarrollos
within a few
energéticos más
hours,
importantes
OpenAI,
de
the
toda
most
América
important
Latina.
artificial intelligence
Pero no
company in the
solo eso,
world, announced its
a las
intention
pocas
to
horas,
invest $25
OpenAI,
billion
la
in
empresa de
developing
inteligencia
data
artificial
centers in
más
our
importante del
country.
mundo,
They want to
anunció
turn
su intención de
Argentina into
invertir
the third
25 mil millones de
artificial
dólares
intelligence
en
hub in the
desarrollar
world.
data centers en
In
nuestro
other
país.
words, in the space
Quieren
of 6
convertir a
hours,
Argentina
we have
en el
had the
tercer hub de
pleasure of
inteligencia
announcing
artificial del
investments
mundo.
for a total of
O sea que dentro
$55,000 million
del rango de 6
in
horas
Argentina,
hemos tenido el gusto de que
investments
se
that will
anuncien
mean tens of
inversiones, un
thousands
total
of
de
direct and
55 mil
indirect
millones de dólares en
jobs, and
Argentina.
that will forever change the role of our
Inversiones que
country
van a
in the
significar
world.
decenas de
As
miles
I
de
tell
puestos de
you, the
trabajo
world is
directos y
looking at
indirectos
Argentina
que
again
vienen a
because they
cambiar
see
para
that the
siempre el
future
rol
will
de nuestro
be
país en
different
el
from the
mundo.
past. That
Como
is
les
why it
digo,
is no
el mundo vuelve a
coincidence
mirar
that
a
today we
Argentina
are here
porque
at
ven que el
Siderza,
futuro
one of the
será
first
distinto al
companies
pasado.
to join the
Por
RIGI,
eso
to
no es
celebrate
casualidad
another
que hoy
milestone
estemos
of
aquí
large
en
investments in
Sidersa,
our land.
una de las
With an
primeras
investment
empresas
of
en
almost
adherirse al
$300
RIGI
million,
para celebrar otro
Siderza
hito
is
de
building a
grandes
long
inversiones en
steel
nuestro
plant with
suelo,
a capacity of
con una inversión por casi
360,000
300
tons per
millones de
year.
dólares. Sidersa está
Congratulations to
construyendo
your
una planta de
directors and
aceros largos
workers.
con una capacidad de
Congratulations.
360
And
mil
in that
toneladas
sense,
anuales.
I take this
Enhorabuena para
opportunity
sus
to thank the
directores y
owner and leader of
trabajadores.
Siderza,
Felicitaciones.
Hernan Spoto, for having received us so generously, and Mayor Santiago Pasalia for helping us coordinate this
Y en ese
visit. As
sentido,
everyone
aprovecho
knows,
para
during the
agradecer al
last
dueño y
year and a
líder de
half we
Sidersa,
dedicated
Ernesto
ourselves to
Spoto, por
organizing the
habernos recibido
macro
de
at
forma
all
tan
costs
generosa,
because
y
we
al
know that it
intendente
is the
Santiago
basis of
Pasalia por
economic
ayudarnos a
growth.
coordinar esta
That is
visita.
why today we also want to announce a series of economic reforms aimed at supporting this unprecedented growth process in our
Como todos
history.
saben,
With the
durante el último
macro
año y
going
medio
ahead
nos
with
dedicamos
wind
a
in its
ordenar la
sails,
macro a
reforms
toda
are
costa,
urgently needed
porque
to
sabemos
boost
que
the
es la base del
micro.
crecimiento
These
económico.
reforms will be
Es por
beneficial
eso que
for
hoy
the
también
entire
queremos anunciar
economy.
una
They will
serie de
benefit
reformas
more than
económicas
500,000
dirigidas a
SMEs that
acelerar este
exist in the
proceso de
country
crecimiento
today,
inédito en
also
nuestro
large
entorno.
companies and,
Con la macro a tanto
fundamentally,
con viento en
workers,
popa,
whether they
urgen
are
las reformas que
employees,
dinamicen la micro.
self-employed or informal,
Estas
because
reformas
they will
serán
drive the
beneficiosas para
creation of
toda la
hundreds of
economía.
thousands of
Van a
blank jobs
beneficiar
in the
a
private
más de medio
sector.
millón de
For
pymes
this
que hoy en
reason,
el
today we
país,
have invited
también a las empresas
representatives of
grandes y
SMEs of
fundamentalmente a los
different types and
trabajadores, ya
sizes,
sean
natives of
empleados,
San
autónomos o
Nicolas,
informales,
yes, but
porque
also
vamos a
from
aterrizar la
Zarate,
creación de cientos de
RAC
miles de
Phase,
puestos de trabajo en
Campana,
blanco
Capital
en el sector
Sarmiento,
privado.
and Pergamino.
Por
You are
eso,
going to be the
hoy hemos invitado a
protagonists of this
representantes de
paradigm
pymes de
shift.
distinto tipo
As
y
you
tamaño,
surely know,
oriundos
we
de
come
San
from
Nicolás,
15
sí,
years of
pero
job
también de
destruction
Zárate,
due
de
to bad
Arrecifes, de Campana,
policies
Capital
twice.
Sarmiento
While,
y de
on the one
Pergamino.
hand,
Ustedes van a
productivity
ser los
was lowered due
protagonistas
to
de este cambio de
macroeconomic
paradigma.
uncertainty, on the other hand, labor
Seguramente
costs
ustedes
increased
sepan,
due to
venimos de 15 años
litigation.
de
The
destrucción
fact
del
that not
empleo
a
por malas
single
políticas
unregistered job has been created in the private sector in all this. Time should not surprise anyone. For this reason, I want to announce that we will be promoting a general reform of the labor regime to give predictability to companies and encourage formal hiring. For too long, legal uncertainty regarding the content of employment contracts, costs and fears of SMEs regarding each contract, thus pushing hundreds of thousands of workers into informality. For these reasons, having an SME became a high-risk task that consumes the life and health of any Argentine in its charge, because the risk inherent to any business, and even more so in Argentina, is added to the occupational risk. But if no one wants to create companies, job creation stops. Because SMEs generate 70% of the employees in this country, there is no doubt that, apart from macroeconomic stabilization, SMEs need, in order to take off, a profound reform in the world of work. This means that workers also need it, because when there is more demand for employment with the same supply, the price of labor, which is the salary, rises. And this is, in particular, important for young people, since 50% of the workforce today is under 35. As we always say, there is nothing better for a worker than a company, and there is nothing better for a company than a worker. We need to rebuild this sacred bond so that there are more and more companies hiring and more workers working. We need a clear, simple and predictable legal framework in labor matters. A framework that stops being an obstacle to hiring and becomes a tool for growth, development and prosperity. For this reason, first of all, we intend to promote the negotiation of collective bargaining agreements. The objective is to promote new collective negotiations that adapt contractual frameworks to the current productive and labor reality, leaving behind structures in force for more than 70 years. This will encourage negotiation and the link between the employer and the union. With this new reform, the chambers and the unions will be able to sit down and negotiate. Those who want to choose again the schemes established more than 70 years ago will be able to do so, but this must be the result of a negotiation that seeks to put the country forward. That is, if no one wants to change the frameworks, those frameworks will be agreed upon and followed, and those who want to modify them will have the option to do so. That is, what we are giving is the flexibility to go to situations with greater possibilities, so that a greater number of jobs and better salaries can be generated. We will also reduce bureaucratic obstacles so that registration processes can be done digitally, saving time and costs for everyone. The objective is simple. We want it not to be necessary to hire an accountant or a lawyer to set up a company and generate formal employment, to rebuild this bond between workers and employers. At the same time, it is necessary to remove power from people who seek to harm it for their own benefit, such as labor scumbags, who are capable of bankrupting an SME and pushing its workers into unemployment in order to collect a lawsuit. This labor reform is aimed at ending once and for all the disastrous trial industry, which has resulted in not a single genuine net job being generated in Argentina in the last 15 years. For this, we are going to seek to eliminate the discretion on the part of labor judges when issuing sentences. These judges, in many circumstances, through the imposition of high interest rates and arbitrary rulings, send SMEs directly into bankruptcy due to the inability to make payments. Finally, it is intended to grant greater freedoms when agreeing to employment contracts, such as the possibility of setting the contract in the currency that both parties decide, without limits, those that currently exist. If someone wants to receive 100% of their salary in dollars, they will be able to do so. At the same time, the possibility of incorporating a time bank system is foreseen, which facilitates the compensation of variable days to respond to seasonal or temporary demands, promoting a balance between productivity and well-being. As I already said, the purpose of this plan is to boost the economy from the largest to the smallest, because large companies that access the RIGI need, in turn, to provide themselves with the goods and services offered by smaller companies. A floating gas liquefaction plant may require long steel for its construction. A long steel plant may, in turn, require furnace manufacturers, control and automation system suppliers, transporters, laboratories to evaluate the quality of the steel and many other areas. Because in the real economy everything has to do with everything. Therefore, energizing the world of work is something that will improve the situation for everyone, encouraging more companies to invest in Argentina, promoting this virtuous circle that will make Argentina great once again. Secondly, we want to carry out a tax reform that focuses on tax simplification. For this reason, we are going to seek to eliminate about 20 taxes that hinder the Argentine economy without having a revenue impact. We Argentines seem to be fans of inventing ridiculous and distorting taxes, which complicate more than they collect. We come to cut this addiction off and simplify our tax system once and for all. The second component of our tax reform is a renewal of the earnings regime for human beings. In this sense, our proposal will expand the conditions for deductibility of expenses to reduce the personal burden of the tax and, in turn, encourage billing. The increase in formal transactions in the economy will, in turn, increase the tax base and improve collection. The guiding principle is simple: if you ask for the invoice, you will be able to pay less profits. Argentina has a very serious informality problem, and for this reason it distributes the state's fiscal burden inefficiently. This is not the fault of the taxpayer, but of the policy that for years made life impossible for those who did things well. Therefore, the challenge of this reform is to put the incentives in order, so that money laundering is more profitable than evasion. If we want to lower taxes sustainably in the future, we need to expand the tax base, and that will never happen if the Treasury continues to treat the taxpayer as a criminal. Therefore, these reforms go hand in hand with the principle of fiscal innocence, announced a few weeks ago, configuring a bureaucratic and fiscal liberation unprecedented in the history of Argentina. All of this is just the first stage of the reforms that we want to carry out. As soon as the new Congress is formed, and for the first time in 25 years, approving it will be possible, given that the next Congress will undoubtedly be more reformist than the current one. I say this mainly because of the dozens of deputies and senators that La Libertad Avanza is going to add, but also because we know that, apart from the usual misfits who believe that the economy is solved by doing the rain dance, there are many deputies and senators who, without belonging to the governing party, share the destiny of the country to which these reforms lead. Once these proposals are approved in the venue, we will move forward with the second stage of reforms to improve the lives of all Argentines. These reforms include a sustained reduction in the main taxes of the economy that affect the vast majority. This will be possible as a result of the increase in the tax base that the labor and tax reform that I just presented will bring. It also includes a commercial opening, so as not to limit Argentine companies to a market of 50 million people and offer them, for the first time, a market of 8,000 million people. This will place Argentine talent on the shelves and outlets of the entire planet, and in turn will stimulate the generation of more talent here. At the same time, understanding that foreign trade works like a round-trip highway, we are going to open the doors of our country for the entry of goods and services from all over the world, so that Argentine products are on Argentine shelves, but also those products that are on the shelves of Montevideo, Mexico City, New York, Barcelona and, why not, from Bangladesh or Tokyo. Of course, this process will have a safeguard of competitiveness for our productive sector, because it will be undertaken once the different dimensions of the Argentine cost have been drastically reduced, among which are mainly taxes, bureaucracy and the cost of credit. We are talking, neither more nor less, of a paradigm shift in Argentine economic life and, consequently, in the lives of all Argentines. Thanks to the reduction of bureaucratic obstacles, in which we have already advanced kilometers, to tax reduction, to the reduction of the interest rate, as a consequence of the lower country risk, and the reduction of labor litigation, we will see a productive revolution unprecedented in our history. This will result in the generation of hundreds of thousands of new registered jobs between now and 2027, and we will leave behind, once and for all, the dark era that the last 15 years of our history have represented, in which not a single genuine net job was generated. That is why we have named this plan the Great Argentina Plan again, because it is about unlocking the powerful domino effect of economic growth. This is what I mean in the greatest depth possible when I tell Argentinians that we are halfway along a path that leads to only one place, prosperity. Just 2 years ago we were encouraged to embark on this path of profound reform. Taking that leap, which some said was a vacuum, meant a very high risk for many. It involved risking the unknown. But abandoning the false comfort of the ideas that led us to failure is the only way to get to the other side. The only way to get to the other side is to free ourselves from the bondage of the past. So let's move on. Let's not lower our arms, let's not give up on the effort we are making, and let's make the effort we have already made worth it. The road is arduous, but today we are closer than ever to consolidating this course that will change the country definitively. Finally, may God bless all of you, all Argentines, and may the forces of heaven be with us. Thank you all very much.